This will be the first time I've ever done a video like this, and I have no idea how it's going to be received, but I just felt like I really had to make it, you know? When it comes to newer games, I try my hardest to play as many that cater to my interests and try to get as many caddy reviews out a year as possible with all the bigger AAA or smaller indie releases. Because of that, my backlog is rather huge most of the time, as you can imagine, and trying to balance playing through games on Caddicarus and newer games for Caddy is pretty fucking difficult sometimes, but I manage. Because of this, when I play a new game and it doesn't grip me or keep me invested after a few hours, I generally lose curiosity and just move on to the next thing in my backlog, which is unfortunately what happened to me with this new game called Prey. Before it came out, I loved how it looked, I loved the ideas it showed off, I didn't get too excited and stayed away from all the hype, but after around 2 hours or so of playing the game when it came out, I just had to stop, because it bored me. God damn did it bore me, and that sucks to say because I was more than ready for it, and I was taking notes while playing it, ready for a caddy review and everything, but no, I can't do that now. So instead I wanted to share a rare experience of me playing through a game that wasn't bad at all, but one that bored me to the point of stopping it. This won't be a regular style of video though, don't worry, this is only because I really did want to review this game and just feel a bit gutted now that I'm not going to. It is incredibly important to state though, this video is not a review of Prey. There will be no score, this is not a deep dissection or critique of the whole game. And I'm also going to say right now that after this video is done, feel free to go into the comments and tell me if I should keep going on with this game, if it gets better later, or if I should not bother and move on to something else, because I am genuinely interested to keep seeing what this game has to offer, but I've just got not enough time, and the beginning parts really did bore me senseless. I'm not hating on this game at all, it just did not grab me whatsoever. So I begin playing and I bloody loved the introduction. It's a slow and calming intro with creative use of credits, which quickly nosedives into a dark and unexpected scary thing happening out of your reach, making me actually shout what the fuck. And then after what you thought was just a normal day for your main character, you wake up at some point and see that everything is very subtly telling you that shit isn't right anymore. It's creepy, it's unsettling, and while panicking trying to figure everything out, you then discover through changes in the level design you experienced 5 minutes ago that everything might have gone more wrong than you realized, and while trying to escape your flat, you have a start game twist. You've been living a lie and your entire life was fake, monitored, virtual, and I know this sounds like a lot to absorb, but it's paced so well that it really does feel like a revelation, and I immediately felt powerless and abused. I slowly started piecing things together, and then I'm forced into a confrontation with the thing that scared me earlier, a black alien tentacle Half-Life headcrab thing. It's great. And yeah, the first hour or so is extremely Bioshock if you couldn't tell. You're getting on with your life and then suddenly something dramatic happens and changes everything you thought you knew about the world. You discover a place you never knew existed, you pick up a wrench, you then discover that this new unknown world has gone to shit and then get contacted by a voice with a nickname trying to keep you alive in the madness. Yeah, it hits a lot of similar notes, and it even hits levels of System Shock 2 with your character finding out they lost their memory after some techno babble, and of course, it's a spacey kind of game. I mean, none of this stuff is inherently bad, but felt way too similar to games of the past that executed this structure just a little bit better, so it came across to me as a bit uninspired out of the starting gate despite how well it's presented and paced. So in my opinion, a good story start, but a little bit too familiar, but then this is all made worse by the fact that the mystery of your amnesia is blown right away at the start, so then that sucks. But I soldiered on as I wanted to find out more about the alien things and why I was locked away like I was, so I started reading documents and listening to audio diaries, and unfortunately, wouldn't you know, every text document I opened felt a little bit tired in the writing, and then every audio diary I heard added absolutely no depth to any side characters or the world around you, instead being more interested in just stating the obvious shit that you already know, like hearing diaries from people just screaming while everything went wrong in the past. Bioshock did this better in my opinion, because you have no idea who you are or what you're doing while being surrounded by real people that for some reason want you dead. There's conflicting motivations, real people in a place that clearly used to be a utopia, obvious uncomfortable political overtones and horror elements all combined together. Everything was already 10 times more effective in creating suspense and mystery in my opinion. And the same can be said for System Shock 2, which is already closer in the futuristic theming to Prey. The oily creatures initially freaked me out, but after about 30 minutes I just felt like there was no character to them. They're all emotionless, bland, indifferent, aggressive alien creatures, and most of them look identical in the first couple of hours. They do some really cool things like grow their limbs, fire projectiles, teleport, and mimic objects in the environment, something I really loved, but then then, at the same time, it's a double-edged sword, because with that ability in particular, it just becomes a nuisance, since in order to save your health, you end up just smacking every other object in the room, wasting time just to keep yourself safe. And like I said, in the first couple of hours, most of them do look exactly the same. They may very well get more interesting as it goes on, but for the start of the game, it makes these characterless blobs even more uninteresting from design and the initial concept. And hey, if you love this game, that's fantastic, but I can imagine that there's a few people that do love this game who are going to take what I'm saying very badly, so I think it's important to reiterate and remind everybody, this is not a review video. This is just my thoughts and experiences and opinions of the first 2 hours or so of the game. This is not my... these thoughts only apply to the beginning parts, not the entire game. I know it sounds redundant me saying that, but I'm sure that a lot of people are going to get upset that I am shitting on this game for no reason. No, I'm just talking about the beginning. This is a video on why I was bored and why I wasn't grabbed and why I stopped playing, alright? Sorry to sound patronising, I don't mean to. There's just a couple of people out there, I'm sure, that would benefit from the reminder. Carrying on though, well, the visuals didn't really help with my engagement. The introductory hours at least didn't show me much that different or varied in the presentation at all. I was in different sections of the ship and searching around different areas of particular districts and industries, but nothing ever looked that different. It looked quite boring in my opinion and a little bit muddy. I don't know, it didn't look as good as other games from the past few years in my opinion, and the fact that nothing stood out made it harder to remember. Not to mention, and this is probably my biggest problem, even on PS4 Pro with boost mode tried on and off, look at the jittering in this game. There was no consistent frame rate whatsoever, and on PS4 Pro especially, that's inexcusable. I much rather would have had a constantly steady 30 like in Far Cry 4, which ran really well on the original, less powerful PS4, and of course the Bioshock remasters, despite being older games, I still think look much better and yet ran at 60 on the original PS4. Even MGS5 ran at a gorgeous 60 FPS on the original PS4, and just look at the beauty of it. I don't get why this game was stammery and stoppy starting. It's struggling to play smoothly, and it's just irritating as well as confusing, and shouldn't have been happening in my opinion on the PS4 Pro. To counter that though, I must be honest, the gameplay itself is the best aspect of Prey, and there were a lot of things that I did love. The more survival heavy and stealthy approach to a space FPS was awesome. Your first gun you find is even a defensive weapon to slow enemies down for easy clobbering, and you can die very quickly if you're careless. I loved all these elements, and it felt new in a game taking a lot of System Shocky inspiration. I do think at the beginning it's a little bit imbalanced for some of the enemies to fire projectiles as powerful as they are, which does make them more annoying than threatening on occasion, especially considering how weak you are, and with the fact that enemies love appearing out of thin air, and with the fact that you need stamina to move and attack with your wrench as often as possible, and your stamina does get used quite a lot because the first few hours don't give you that much weaponry or ammo for it, leading you to do nothing but run out of breath constantly with too much sprinting away from things you don't even know are too powerful for you until you've wasted half your stamina hitting the enemy to figure out if you should even take it on. And whenever I did find a gun, yes, it made everything a lot easier, but they just didn't feel that good to use and a little bit flat. And I know that you get more abilities later on with this stuff, but again, I lost interest before I got to any of that. And the funny thing is, I actually liked more of the game than I didn't. I mean, the gameplay in particular had so many great ideas, so many cool things going on. The starting gate teases and shows off some many great mechanics and weapons. There are bombs that turn enemies and items into crafting materials. There's an item recycling system so you can pick up any random junk and make other useful items from them. The glue gun you get immobilizes enemies and it's fucking awesome. You get needle in the eye injections, which are completely gross but fascinating at the same time, and the fact that the levels can be explored in totally different ways depending on the stats you upgrade into is a fantastic little touch for replayability, optional content, secret important items, and quicker and easier ways to progress. Weapons aren't only good for fighting but are also tactical around the levels, like with the glue gun being able to cover up leaking pipes for instance. You can look around for keycards and even find door codes that you need to remember from what you see on walls, like Bioshock again. There are control panels to affect power and lights in one room that sacrifice the locked doors of another room. There's just so much awesome stuff in the exploration in particular, but when you throw this into samey and blocky level design, I once again lost interest. There's lots of things to find for sure, but I just don't like the lack of distinction. But then I can counter that straight away by saying I loved little details like seeing the man who glued himself inside the bathroom and died of starvation instead of facing what was outside. That's incredible visual storytelling. But yes, unfortunately I had to stop playing Prey. As I've explained in this video, it bored me and I just couldn't find the energy to continue with it. I had to move on to other things, and this game was not grabbing me anywhere near enough that I think it should have been. Like, as far as I know, this game could be a masterpiece. It could get so much better later on that the beginning parts didn't mean anything. The story could have so many more twists and turns. The gunplay could get more interesting, and there could be more interesting level designs on this space station. I don't know, for me, in this introductory few hours to try and get me invested in the game, it didn't do it for me. And to be honest, one of the main contributing factors to this is the fact that the PS4 version of the game is a fucking disappointment. It's a letdown no matter what way you look at it. It is not the best way to play this game, so if you're thinking about playing the game, I do not recommend it on PS4 at all. It's way too distracting. Please do go in the comments and let me know, should I give this game another chance on PC? Should I not bother? I'm going to leave that up to you guys. This was just my experiences with the first few hours, and it didn't do anything for me. I'm really sorry. But anyway, there you go. If it's your birthday today or watching this video, happy freaking birthday to you, and please remember to stay beautiful.